This episode of Nerds of the Multiverse is not brought to you by Pornhub because they refuse to sponsor us. Hashtag please sponsor us, Pornhub. Hello everybody and welcome back to Nerds of the Multiverse.
Back? What? This is my first time.
Oh yeah, because it's a different BugFan every episode, because I keep kidnapping different BugFans from different universes.
That explains how you grew all that hair overnight.
Am I bald in your universe?
I guess so.
Cool.
But not really bald. You just recently went mad and shaved a line in your head. Just down the middle.
I was thinking of doing something just like that tonight.
Man,
Your universe must be like
pretty close.
Your universe must be like one day ahead of ours. There you go.
Damn.
So,
can't look forward to seeing that in your future.
Last week we planned to upload the podcast on Sunday, but we had a couple of issues. One being
you can say that.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have heard, but there were like a lot of power outages in California, and we were affected
California's
by that.
on fire in about 10 different ways right now.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a new fire that popped up yesterday morning.
I'm not surprised. So the power outage was the reason that it was uploaded late. It was also why I didn't notice until I watched the video after it was uploaded. I did a shit job of editing it. For one, I didn't trim down the ending like I usually do. But for the other, I did a disclaimer where I was supposed to say, due to the power outages in California, this episode came up later than it was supposed to. But because there were a few things I had to tweak while editing, I ended up just saying due to the power outages in California, and then that was all I put.
Nice.
The reason for that was because we had the power back it was after the power came back. I didn't know how long we were going to have it for, so I didn't get home until probably around 2:00 in the morning because I had been out in the city that night. So it was 2:00 in the morning and I was super tired. Like I was just ready to pass out right there, but I had to keep myself awake because for all I knew the power was going to go out any moment. So I rushed the editing, plus I was so tired, and I'm not over exaggerating here, I probably could have done a better job of editing it if I was drunk. I was just
That's
God, it was really
tired.
Yeah, so
I've
did
seen you drunk. That's messy.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why the editing job on the podcast was really shit. I want to kind of go over one more thing coming January is that we are for sure going to be having Let's Plays coming January. One that's coming that you can look forward to is Megan and I are going to try to do we're going to start with me doing Bloodborne, and then we're going to switch to her doing Dark Souls, because what's going on is that I've beaten Dark Souls many times, she's beaten Bloodborne many times, but I've never beaten Bloodborne, she's never beaten Dark Souls, so I'm going to be playing Bloodborne, she's going to be making fun of how much I suck at Bloodborne, and then vice versa.
If you need to call up some help, I'll happily boot up my Bloodborne and come over and help you.
Cool. Good to know. I might need it because I suck at Bloodborne. But she sucks
I rock at Bloodborne.
Yeah.
I've got multiple New Game +7 profiles now.
Damn.
I mentioned New Game +7 mainly because that's where basically all the performance increases, like the health increases and the damage to you increases and stuff, all drops off. Once you hit New Game +7, there's no point in new gaming it if you want it to get harder. Just start at the easy level again, work your way up with a new character.
There you go.
Or just keep infinitely playing the hard stuff.
Yeah, I suck at
character.
I suck at Bloodborne. She sucks at Dark Souls. So it'll be fun. I think. I'm not sure if we're gonna have me beat Bloodborne all the way through and then she'll do Dark Souls, or if we're gonna trade off. We haven't decided yet, but we are gonna be doing Let's Plays, which will be fun.
That would be nice.
Coming January.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I'll say this: if you're gonna do them at the same time, that gets messy.
Okay.
But that's only if you're doing them one at a time instead of the other one. If you're going to do them both at the same time and put out double the content, that's different.
Okay.
It takes more time, but more content's more good.
I think
more consistent content is better than less consistent content.
That's true. I think what we'll do is I'll just do Bloodborne first, and then she'll do Dark Souls, and then we'll make fun of each other.
If you're only gonna do one at a time, like one a week, then I'd recommend that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
I
cool.
can agree with that. I mean, I'm not from your universe saying that. maybe people in your universe enjoy different things.
I don't know. Who knows?
It's possible.
But yeah, we'll go on to let me pull this up on my phone real quick. Some really cool news. So basically, a Blu-ray collection that I wanted to tell you about just came out, and
a Blu-ray collection.
It is called the Criterion collection of the Godzilla Showa-Era film. So the entire
Fudge, yeah.
This is now. Here's why this is a big deal. So this is 15 films. And keep in mind, when these films were coming out to America, they were all being produced by different studios. So, like, different studios had, like, different rights to different Godzilla films, right? And these are the first 15 Godzilla films. Now, Criterion was able to, I guess, pay for the licensing from Universal and, I think... maybe not Paramount, but probably some other companies. They had to pay like a lot of money, but in order to have like their own collection of the first 15 Godzilla movies, which is called the Showa-Era, and now they sell it in a really cool like Blu-ray disc like set. The one. If I'm being a jackass about this, I'm going to make my stupid complaint and say that I don't like that it comes in a case that doesn't really fit with your DVD collection. If you're someone like who likes to keep your DVDs in one shelf, this fits in a bookshelf. This does not fit in a DVD shelf because it's like that size. It's about the size of an art book.
Oh, it's tall.
Yeah, it's the size of an art book basically. But that's just me being a dick. If I'm talking about the content on it,
maybe they want you to mount it. Maybe the back of it has like a wall mount on it.
If I'm
hammer a nail.
If I'm talking about the content that's on it, it's 15 movies, and I got it for a good price at Barnes & Noble for $112.
Crap.
So, and we did the math.
That's actually a really good deal. I've been looking at the digital prices for the movies because I've been wanting to buy them for a while now. And it's gonna come out to a lot more than that for 15 movies. I think they average at $15 each already. At 15, that puts it well above 150. Just 10 of them meet 150.
Yeah, because usually they're around $10. We did the math. It's like slightly over $7 per film when you get them together like this.
That's a good deal.
And it comes with a cool art book. It comes with, or not art book, but it comes with cool like illustrations for each movie. Each of the movies usually have a special feature on it. Some of them even come with two different movies essentially because the first Godzilla movie, Godzilla, it comes with both Godzilla and Godzilla King of the Monsters. The difference being is that with Godzilla King of the Monsters, they kind of Power Rangers'd it. That is the worst verb I've ever come up with. But basically what I mean is
they Sentai over it.
Yeah, they basically have Japanese footage mixed with new filmed American footage with like an American actor.
For the release in Europe and America.
Yeah, exactly. And then they did the same thing in a lot smaller dose for King Kong versus Godzilla. But yeah, it comes with both versions for both of those.
That's really cool.
It's an amazing collection. Go to your local Barnes and Nobles, and I say there because everywhere else it's twice as much. It's $200 if you get it anywhere else, but this month only, Barnes & Noble has a 50% off. And if you have a Barnes & Noble membership, you get an additional 10% off.
Now, hold on. There are other options now. If you go to Walmart, they'll price match anywhere. If you go to Best Buy, they'll price match anywhere. And if you go to Amazon, something tells me it might.
They might. Yeah, you can check there as well. But we went to Barnes and Noble just because like that they were making a big deal.
Might live in an area without Barnes and Noble because I don't think there's a Barnes and Noble anywhere near my hometown in Arkansas. There are like 3 Walmarts, no Barnes and Noble.
Wow. Okay, that's a good point. But yeah, so if you like Godzilla like I do, get this fucking collection, all right? It's one of the best deals you're ever going to get. I hope they do it for the next 2 eras.
While we're advertising for giant monsters and Godzilla, oddly enough, one, cool little news. I know nothing about it because we just saw an article about it before we started this.
We didn't even read it. We just saw like the headline.
We just saw a headline. But Japan's getting a Godzilla theme park attraction.
Yeah, that sounds kind of cool. Yeah.
And looks like it's based off of my personal favorite Godzilla.
The Shin Godzilla.
That looks super cool. I will probably want to go there. But I actually wanted to shell out for My personal second favorite giant monster behind Mothra herself, the queen of the monsters, Gamera, who does have some limited Blu-ray releases. But I noticed that for some reason those Blu-ray releases aren't available on Amazon in the U.S. and I just want to make a call out there for people to buy it anyways, so that maybe I can get it easier. Thank you.
That would actually be cool if they did a Gamera collection. There's only really two eras of Gamera, so they shouldn't be.
Yeah. There's like the pre-universe and post-universe era. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's that's it. Like yeah.
Yeah.
Do it. Release Gamera.
Honestly, what's weird is they have a Blu-ray collection of 2 of the Savior of the Universe movies. Mm-hmm. The first 2, but doesn't include the third, and the third is the one I want right now because the third is the only one I haven't seen in that series, and I love the first 2. And all of Gamera before that. Gamera! Which has a weirdly limited availability digitally. Like Amazon has some of it, and some of it is on Vudu. The same sum that's on Amazon. But for some reason, not all of it. It's really weird. I don't like it.
I don't know if this has become like an actual like phrase outside of this guy's videos, but this guy Brandon Tinalda, love his movie reviews, but he does a lot of giant monster movies, so specifically Gamera and Godzilla, and I love it. He's come up with an adjective to describe any annoying kid character in either Godzilla or Gamera, because it all started with Gamera. He calls him a Kenny now, so whenever there's like an annoying kid character, I'll be like, oh well, I guess that's this universe's Kenny.
I will have to say, it is pretty fair to criticize Gamera movies on their kid characters. Fucking savior of children.
Also, this is just really quick, but you wanted to bring this up, and I really want to bring this up too. There's finally a release date about Into the Spider-Verse, and what's so special? You said something was special about this release date.
Yeah, so I love this release date. I have a personal love of this release date. So Into the Spider-Verse 2 will be releasing April 8th, 2022, which happens to be my birthday. Sony has decided to be cool and give me a birthday present. So that's cool, and I'm into that. I'm going to be so into that. I'm so into that. I don't even care that's so far out. I'm cool with that because already the first one had major long-term production, not issues, that's the wrong word, but complications, and that they literally invented new technologies and new ways of animating to make it in the first place. And it's part of what made it so special. Continuing to evolve that or further license and use that, it's going to take a lot more time than usual. And in the meantime, Sony's also doing a lot of stuff with the Spider-Man license that we don't know how it may or may not affect it. So I actually like that they're kind of waiting to do it, but are guaranteeing they're doing it here.
Yeah.
I'm kind of down for that.
Who knows? Because of the release date 2022, and we know that Spider-Man 3 is coming 2021.
Yeah,
maybe it'll be how they bridge Tom Holland into the Sonyverse.
Yeah, we've theorized on this before. Reference multiple past episodes.
Do know though. So this is actually something I wasn't planning on talking about, but why not? Since we're already talking about Spider-Man. There is the rumor now that J.K. Simmons, the same one that we see in Spider-Man Far From Home, he's going to be playing the same version of J. Jonah Jameson in Venom 2, supposedly.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm really into that. And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'd be cool with it. Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I think he should be J. Jonah Jameson in everything all the time.
He is in 90% of the cartoons that come out.
It seems like it. They seem to get him back for the role a lot outside of live action movies.
I love one thing I love about J.K. Simmons is he's like an Oscar actor that doesn't seem to demand that much for coming on to kids cartoons, which is not something that you can say about a lot of other actors.
There are a couple actors who do this where they just appear in anything they want to.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much they can probably afford to pay. Mark Hamill pops up in everything.
Yeah.
Hashtag
Mark Hamill for Doc Ock.
Hells yes. But or Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Holy crap! Why am I blanking on Mace Windu's name?
Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, Samuel L. Jackson appears in all sorts of weird little things.
It's weird because like they clearly couldn't afford him for every episode of the Clone Wars, but they got him for some every once in a while. And then whoever,
like as long as his availability was good, he just showed up for it.
And then whoever it is that voiced him when it wasn't Samuel L. Jackson did an amazing job. Like I actually couldn't tell the difference most of the time. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
which isn't a mark against Sam. That's a mark for whoever. Other actor.
Well, it's the exact same thing with, and I know who actually voiced him. It's the same guy that voiced Obi-Wan in the Clone Wars. When he reprised his role as older Ben Kenobi, he sounded exactly like Alan. Wait, is it Alec Guinness?
Sir Alec Guinness, yeah.
Sir, yeah, he sounded exactly like him. Like, that was mind-blowing right there.
I disagree a little bit. One, I don't think young Obi-Wan sounds exactly like Ewan McGregor.
No, I'm not saying young Obi-Wan. I'm saying when he did older Obi-Wan specifically.
I think his older Obi-Wan is like a perfect mixture of his young Obi-Wan and Alec Guinness. I think it's an almost spot-on perfect mixture. I don't feel it's the exact same as Guinness.
I feel like it was almost spot-on. Like, I'd have to hear them back-to-back, but they were so, like, spot-on.
There is only one voice actor who's ever managed to take a role from someone in the past and do it in a way I legitimately could not tell. I think you might be able to guess
Uncle
who
Iroh?
it is. Yeah, Uncle Iroh. The voice actor for Uncle Iroh.
It's something Baldwin. I don't remember. Yeah. I just remember thinking, wait, Baldwin. Is he related to Alec Baldwin? No, he's not.
Yeah. But yeah, the voice actor who took over for the role of Uncle Iroh from the Tales of Ba Sing Se episode on, because of the unfortunate early death of
Mako,
actually,
or was it? Yeah. Is it? It's okay.
Mako,
I've heard it being pronounced both Mako and Mako. I am pronouncing it Mako because that's how the show pronounces it.
That's how the show pronounces it. Because they have a sequel series where they name another character after Mako.
Exactly. So I'm pronouncing it Mako. Yeah. If it's Mako, I apologize.
Yeah. Yeah. If it is Mako, all respect to you. Sorry. Yeah. But we're gonna go with what the show says, Mako.
Who was also in the Clone Wars.
That's true.
Yeah. For an episode.
But I legit, to this day, knowing that the change happens, I cannot peg it. I can't tell. You can put clips next to them. I think if I was a computer and could read every sound wave, I would not be able to tell. Yeah. It's just too perfect. Which, again, is not a mark against the original voice actor, who is one of my favorite voice actors of all time, just because of that one role. It's just a mark of how good the follow-up is.
Last thing I'm going to bring up with this before we move on to your topic. Interestingly enough, Mako, he did voice in an episode of Star Wars, the Clone Wars, and that episode in particular was a huge homage to the Seventh Samurai, which Mako was in.
Yeah.
Boom. It all comes full... And it's funny because Star Wars itself, one of the many inspirations for Star Wars was Seventh Samurai. So
Yep, that's true.
It's so funny how it all kind of comes full circle. So
it's like George Lucas says, everything rhymes.
Yeah. Now that we've kind of gone as off topic as we can, let's move on to your topic.
Yeah, speaking of off topic, on topic. So my topic is one I came up with last episode, but we didn't really have time for it last episode. But I think it's an interesting discussion to have. Mainly because I think I have a pretty controversial take on it, but also one I think is founded in enough objective truths. I think it probably should be, even if someone disagrees with me artistically about it. And that's whether or not comic books should exist. And I should specify in their current form. The week-to-week or month-to-month, issue-to-issue form. The serialization form. I don't think serialized comics should exist. My main reason I say that is because it's not cost effective on almost anyone. well, that's not my main reason. My main reason comes from a personal issue I have with how serialized comics have been mutated and deformed over the years. Serialized comics early on happened because serialization was the cost-effective means of production, mixed with the way creators could effectively make a living off of something that normally took a long time to create, or at least a lot of man hours to create. And in those limitations, they made really great art, some really great stories, great characters, great everything. The original Spider-Man comic books from the 60s on are the founding inspirations for who I am today. Love everything about them, even how corny and shit they are sometimes. I love comic books. I love them how they were, but that started to change. At some point, I started to dislike reading them week to week. And I started to wait to purchase them, and then I purchased them and binged them. And I realized what I was doing was very emblematic of something else I was a big fan of. Graphic novels, which are not the same thing as comic books. Comic books used to be serialized, but now are much more connected to each other. Storylines go for multiple issues at a time, sometimes literally dozens of issues at a time, sometimes across different comic book series. There are huge world events and huge character events, and they happen all the time now. It's not occasionally, it's not even the minority of the time, it's the majority of the time. The main storyline is following a major arc, which is antithetical to serialization, both in theory and I think in their practice. This has come to... Yeah, I should silence that. This has come to my lack of enjoyment in reading them week to week. Not only that, but I can't afford to buy an $8 or $9 comic every week, especially multiple every week. What I can afford is a $15 collection of 6 of those, which I've been doing for a little bit now with my favorite comic book series, Spider-Man. I've been waiting until like the collection comes out.
The trade paperbacks.
Yeah, trade paperbacks come out and getting those. But I've also not been enjoying that. And I've come to the conclusion that it's because I don't like a non-serialized storyline being serialized. I find it incredibly jarring to read what feels like filler all the time. There's a more important overarching story all the time, and the beginning or end of the issue is always hinting or directly showing it, while the main issue is about something that doesn't matter to that. Because serialization is a thing, and we get our issues, which are a thing. And then when the actual event comes, literally the entire issue is about it for like 6 weeks. Every issue is fully about it, and those are good. But I don't want them in my regular serialized issues. Like, if you're going to do serialized story of the week things, I want that crap taken out of it. It takes me out of the experience to see that shoved in all the time. And I just don't like it. So I think that would work better if you like made like graphic novels or paperbacks of those stories separate from the serialization, if that's necessary. But I also think the comic book industry has a lot of problems fiscally. It doesn't make a lot of money. It doesn't make a lot of money specifically in print. Issue to issue.
Let me silence that.
Yeah, phone issues.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't pay its artists well. It forces incredibly harsh deadlines. And I, honest to God, think most people could do with a healthy desizing of speed. That we could use a dose of slow. I don't think it's really healthy to encourage instant gratification as much as we do in general, and that our need for instant gratification comes to affect the art we see, and that effect is mostly negative in my eye. It's affecting the fact that we have to have multiple different artists work on multiple different comics at a time now. I don't get to see the same artist every issue, or every issue for like an entire zone of comics. It's often given to multiple different artists or inkers and stuff, issue to issue. So there's a lack of visual consistency sometimes. I've been seeing this especially with Spider-Man, where I'm not a huge fan of, I think Robert Ramos is his name, the artist that has done a lot of my favorite Spider-Man stuff recently. I'm just not a huge fan of his art. I'm a huge fan of the stories, but not necessarily of his art in the stories. Although I will say some of it is actually great. It's beautiful, and it is really good. It's just not my thing. It's not my jam. And I was cool with him when it was all him, but now it's not all him. Now he's splitting it with, I think, maybe Nick Spencer's actually the writer and it's a different artist. I'm going to have to look at the new artist. But he's splitting it with a new artist. And I don't like that. It takes me out every time I see a Robert Ramos all of a sudden. And I like the visual consistency of like the Romita Senior days. Or the Stan Lee days, the Romita Jr. days, where like you had the same Spider-Man artist doing the same Spider-Man comic for years sometimes. I like a lot of things that serialization used to do. I just don't think they're being done anymore. And I think the way the comic book industry has gone, it would probably benefit from collecting overarching stories and publishing them in a larger, more collected form, and either leaving serialization separately to be done on a cheaper platform, something like instead of in print, maybe you make them webcomic based, like you just make serialization on a different form media, something that's cheaper to produce. You can still have everyone making it manually and then uploading it online. It doesn't have to be made as a webcomic on a digital like paper or anything. Although a lot of that art is already being made digitally anyways. But I don't think print is a very effective, cost-effective way of doing it. And not only that, but it's really harmful to a lot of the creators to do like really harsh weekly deadlines and stuff. That's my set of opinions off of some things that are fact. It's a fact the comic book industry does not make much money. It's a fact that writers, artists, shaders, inkers, colorists all work with horrible deadlines to make minimal amounts of money per hour worked. Like I think if you estimate the amount of time they work on every page of art, it comes to far below like federal minimum wage. Like it's ridiculous. I know this is true for independent animators and comic book artists already. Animation has had this problem for a long time, where the animation industry, both in and outside of America, really famously in Japan, is horrible to its creators, pays them literally nickels and dimes on the page, for or on the frame, and for like literally dozens of hours of work. And I don't like how pervasive these issues have become. And I don't see a way of fighting those issues and keeping the art form I like with serialization anymore.
It's a lot actually, so I don't know. I'll try to like go over like what I kind of think as much as I can. It's tough for me though, because like I don't keep up with the comic books as much as I used to, and even then it's like for me it's mostly DC comic books I keep up with, and while what they've been doing currently with the comic books that I've been keeping up with, and keep in mind I haven't even The only comic books I actually was buying month to month or week to week, I think for Titans it was every other week. For Teen Titans it's every month, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. But the way they've been doing it is usually they have their own like self-contained arcs, but if there's like a DC event going on, it'll be like sprinkled into what's an already ongoing arc. So I can like read, you know, the arc that's going on in the trade paperbacks and know totally what's going on, and then be like, oh, there's some other event going on. It's not important to the story I'm currently reading. So, as a reader, nothing has been bothering me with the serialization that they do on the side of most of the DC comics I've been reading. Even their really big events, usually, like, for example, for the Doomsday Clock, the way they kind of sprinkled it into, like, a lot of the upcoming, when Rebirth first started, to me, never kind of took away from whatever comics I was reading. I kind of liked the way some of the comics would have, like, subtle setups for these, right? So yeah, for me as a reader, it never bothered me in that way. In fact, if it does for you, if you're like you can't keep up with too much continuity, I definitely would recommend then if you check out some of the more, not independent per se, but the lesser known comic book industries or companies like Image and Boom and Dark Horse, because usually their stories are their own universes most of the time. Like, on the Boom side of things, I've been keeping up with Power Rangers, and I plan to start reading the Buffy the Vampire Slayer comics.
If you do, we carry those. I can get you those.
Cool.
For pretty cheap.
Because I've been really curious about those. Because I fucking love Buffy.
They're pretty cool.
In more
I've been liking them. I just read them in my off hours at work. I work at a bookstore, for anyone who doesn't know. For anyone, I don't know if your universe, Alex, works at a bookstore, but yeah. And I get to read a lot of graphic novels and comics in my spare time now.
But
it's nice.
But like, going off what you said though about the industry itself and how it works, you know, it seems similar to the same thing that bothers me about a lot of Japanese like anime studios.
This famously bothers me about some of my favorite anime productions come out of some really shit workspaces, and it makes me feel really conflicted about supporting them. It makes me think, like, in one way, one of the better solutions, it seems to me, now definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like one of the better solutions to pay it more would be to make like less quantity and focus more on the quality, so that way you can focus on getting people that you'd be willing to pay more. But at the same time, it feels like it's a kind of a double-edged sword, because at the same time you'd also be getting rid of a lot of jobs in return. So it's like, and I feel like a lot of people that put up with the really shit paid do it because, I mean, I can only assume if you work on comic books, you're a very skilled person. You've clearly taken classes on this. You clearly know what you're doing, and you're getting paid like that type of shit, where I was getting paid more as an assistant manager at Noah's. You're clearly doing it because you're passionate about it and no other reason. It's clearly something you're passionate about. And because you want to make a living doing it.
Yeah. Because it's you want to make a living doing it because you're passionate about it. But so, like, the thing is, like, with, if you were to like ask someone, you know, just randomly, hey, you know, the job industry for you will be a lot better. However, it's a roll of the dice whether or not you're even going to keep your job, you know, like whether or not they'd be willing to take that risk. So that's the big question.
I think this is a bit disingenuous, because I don't think we'd have something like massive layoffs. So
you don't think we'd have massive layoffs?
No, because like the way I'd prevent that is if you still want to serialize something, you would open up a different platform for which to publish things on the regular. So a really good example of this was for a good long time, there was like this weekly like Marvel newsletter thing that they put out that you could just pick up for free with your comics at your local comic book store. And in it, Stan Lee had a little editorial thing where he just made a little like classic 60s style Spider-Man comic panel. Just 4 panels of Spider-Man comic book. Like every like little news thing. There's like a what's coming up in Marvel thing, or what issues are on sale this month thing. But it happened every week, and that's affordable. It's in a larger medium. It's an example of something you could do and still make money doing. You don't have to, if you're going to serialize Spider-Man, you don't have to do it by page. You don't have to make a full comic book. Make something cheaper with the same artists, but that doesn't necessitate they make it in the same amount of time, or put the same amount of time into making it. Make a digital shorter comic book thing. Make it just whatever they can do. Maybe have like story writers are already in charge of where comics go anyways. Just let them do their serialization separate from the big universe stuff entirely. It would be cheaper. It would be easier to do for artists. And since it's being made separately from the big issue stuff, you don't have to have the same kind of constraints for either quality control or like narrative restriction on it. You could allow people to make shorter or longer issues on the regular depending on what time allowed. You could even allow for incomplete things, for things to kind of cut off and just get maybe like weekly uploads of the newest pages, like make it a webcomic format where it's literally just an ongoing set of panels of stories that sometimes have to do with each other, but oftentimes are just serialized their own little things.
That would be cool, like Marvel and DC webcomics, like
right?
both set in their own universes, one page a day.
Yeah,
or one
like
page
that
a
would
week.
be cool. And if you're going to do serialization, that's kind of what you have to do now. Maybe give it to just a few creators. Just Stan Lee did that 4-panel thing. I'm not saying go that far, like make a 1 week, like one guy does four panels or something. But like do something like that. It's more cost effective and it allows for those jobs to be opened up. Heck, it allows for new jobs to be opened up because right now the comic book industry is also kind of insular in that it hires from like within its own bounds a lot. It hires from artists with already deeply entrenched connections or ins through physical medium. It doesn't allow for ins so much for digital workers, which we now live in an age where the vast majority of artists are digital workers. You could see a lot more explosions of new or like official independent hiring, like contracting for like single panel things or smaller webcomic things. You could see like famous webcomic artists right now who have huge followings, but niche fan bases, and you could see them get an official platform to publish Marvel licensed stuff, and all of a sudden absorb a lot of the webcomic fandom that doesn't buy comic books. They're exactly the type of people that would, but they don't because it's a physical medium that costs a lot of money. That's an entire market that's not being tapped that they can tap, and that they already have artists for it. They're just not hiring them. So it doesn't actually destroy jobs. Not only that, but anyone working in the industry already who's worried about losing their job because what they do is serialized work doesn't really have to worry about that. They may have to worry a little bit more if they're depending on like week-to-week paychecks. But I actually think that the separation of graphic novels and that would allow more people who are buying comic books right now to buy more comic books. So part of the thing right now is me, as someone who would love to buy so many comics, can't afford to. I can afford to follow like 2 or 3 comics a year, realistically. And then like I catch up all at once on others, either by pirating them, which I mainly have to do because I'm poor, or if there's like a big collection of them, I'll buy a big collection of them. Or I'll buy a bunch of trade paperbacks at once if I see them on sale somewhere. Because that's what I kind of have to do to be a fan now. In order to consume as much as I consume. I literally can't afford the prices of admission right now. But I think if you make it so there are fewer time constraints and fewer limitations on those big overarching stories, that as long as they're out in a fairly timely fashion, you don't have to put them out with the same regularity that you do right now. 1 issue a week, every day on this day. Instead, it allows the artist a certain amount of leeway in their day-to-day life to create a certain amount, work a certain number of hours that may be healthier or more productive for them. And in the long run, you can make bigger, more expensive comics or smaller, less expensive comics almost at will, or I should say graphic novels at will, which theoretically leads to everyone keeping jobs, just working on different projects. Like if you don't have to worry about the serialization for Spider-Man, because it's already over here on the webcomic, it allows for more people to do their big story they wanted to do for Spider-Man, and maybe Amazing Spider-Man is moved to an online format where it's maybe you get half the pages you do now in the same time frame. But it's just the serialization, so you're not getting big overarching story stuff almost at all. You're just getting the villain of the week stuff. And that allows you to make more overarching stories at once. Once you take the Amazing out of the title and have multiple Spider-Man titles, maybe you can bring back the Peter Parker and Web of Spider-Man titles that they own and just don't use much, and kind of redefine them for new types of series they want to do. Maybe one of them can be the smaller ones, and maybe one of them can be bigger ones. One can come out monthly, and one can come out bi-monthly. One can take a quarter of a year to make and be a huge event thing every time it does, or even be like a once every 8 months thing, but be a really big thing. Like all the Spider-Verse ones come out once every 2 years, and it's this team that does it. And it allows you to do that in a way that allows more people to buy those. If you're making them over a longer period of time with less time constraints, you might have to pay your creators more regularly, more realistically. And you might get more people buying more comics because all of a sudden they're not having to buy 8 a week or nothing. They can buy 1 or 2 a week. Or one a week, but that 1 a week is the equivalency of what was like 8 before. So they can buy like Teen Titans this week, Spider-Man the next week. They all of a sudden, for people who budget week to week, for the vast majority of Americans who live their lives like literally paycheck to paycheck, it allows you to more regularly disperse that instead of having to worry about the like 6 issues that come out this day and the 6 issues that come out the next week, or the 3 issues that come out on Wednesday and the 4 that come out next Thursday. You can just go in and pick one up every paycheck. Every paycheck you get this one, every paycheck you get that one, you get 2 or 3. As opposed to having to worry about like all of your titles at once all the time. I don't know. I think that could work.
I don't know. It might.
I also have no numbers to back up what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, the big thing is I don't know enough about the industry to, like, argue one way or the other. My overall point is if it would just guarantee that people wouldn't lose jobs over it, then, yeah, I'd be all for any kind of changes that come with the comic book industry that are for the better, I just wouldn't want people, like, losing their jobs for something that they probably have wanted to do their whole lives.
Even if they did, I still think that might be a positive. If, Marvel having to be less shitty led to more people losing jobs. Say all we required is comic books that exist the same way they do now, except for you remove the time limitations. We do once a month again, and you have to pay for all those hours worked. All of a sudden, Marvel has to pay a shit ton more for way less product. I think that's a good thing because that will incentivize a lot less people working for Marvel because Marvel won't be paying them to work, and they can go off and make competitive creations. Right now, the comic book industry has a huge problem where it's very borderline. Like the actual huge selling comic books are borderline monopolistic. There are 2 major parties, Marvel and DC. As much as I love other comic books, there's a reason why independent comic books don't really exist. Independent graphic novels exist because individual creators creating entire storylines at a time is cost effective for them like that. There's also a reason why a couple other publishing companies only publish those because it's what they can afford to do. They make money off of a creator creating a thing instead of directing a creator to create a thing. And it makes money. Like that, the independent comic book, the existence of that industry, of that part of the industry, kind of pans out with what I'd like. fewer serializations, many more graphic novels, and a lot more creative stuff because of it. A lot more individualistic stuff. I don't necessarily need 13 people a year drawing Spider-Man for me. In fact, I don't really want that. Call me an asshole. I know a lot of artists would love to make Spider-Man. I don't think every artist who wants to make Spider-Man should be making Spider-Man. I don't really think anyone thinks that. And if they do, then you don't think Marvel should be publishing Spider-Man. Not how it is, even as it is now. I love that Robert Ramos is allowed to have made a Spider-Man run. I don't want him making the current one. Because he's not the main artist in it. But I would be totally cool with him making his own run on the side. Marvel would let him do that, or pay him to do that, or if he could do that, and then Marvel could pay him to publish his work. If Marvel acted more like an independent publisher, maybe contracted out more work, I might not have this opinion, or this conversation might be different on my end. But they don't. They do a single publication thing, and don't actually control that. I have a hard time believing Disney made Doc Ock Spider-Man and called it the Superior Spider-Man for a while. I feel like that was an actual creative decision by the head writer of Spider-Man at the time.
I really don't think Disney cares what they do with the comic books. Or to an extent.
Yeah,
Sorry, let me add to that. To an extent, like
I mean, I think we've seen their hand in other things.
I think, I think to Disney, as long as they don't make Peter Parker gay, Disney's like, okay, whatever, you can do what you want. There was, I say that specifically because I heard, I've heard, weird things like that. I don't know how much of them are true because they're all rumor stuff.
You say that, except for they basically did that. Not to that extent, but there was an actual controversy at the time. It was stupid, and I don't agree that it should have been a controversy, but in the Superior Spider-Man, when Doc Ock controlled the body, Doc Ock dated a, I'm going to call her a dwarf. I know that may not be politically correct, but I don't know a politically correct term for people with dwarfism. So I'm going to call her a dwarf. I don't mean that disrespectfully, just that I don't have an alternate term that I know that fits. But Doc Ock was into a girl with dwarfism. She was awesome. She's an awesome character. Maybe should have been drawn a little bit more classically dwarfish. She was drawn almost like a person in miniature sometimes, as opposed to someone with dwarfism, which was a little bit of a shame sometimes. But it was really cool they did that. There was a controversy online about that. I don't think Disney cared about it at all. I would be surprised if they controlled the way Spider-Man went, that would ever have happened. Those are two related for this issue, but not really related comments. Definitely don't think Disney cared. I also don't think Disney would have ever done that if they controlled the direction of
That's
Spider-Man.
kind of what I mean. Yeah. I don't think they necessarily care too much where they go with it. I think they don't really have a Disney themselves don't really have a direction for the comics books, but I think that if it was something extreme, extreme stuff in the way I'm almost uncomfortable of saying it on this podcast, that Disney would be okay, no, you can't do this. You can't make I don't know. I'll just say one thing.
Tony Stark.
You can't make per se for example Captain America a pedophile, or you can't do stuff like that. That's where I think Disney would step in.
I don't know. They made him a Nazi.
Yeah, but it was the fictionalized Nazi, so it's okay.
There was that's a big conversation.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay. But, moving on to the DC side of things.
All right, over to DC.
Yeah. So, believe it or not, I have a DC TV topic that does not necessarily involve Crisis on Infinite Earths.
So, I like that. I like that qualifier. It doesn't necessarily.
For the most part, there's only one mention I'm going to give with Crisis. For the most part, nothing really relating to Crisis is going to relate to this upcoming thing.
Since it's not going to relate, can I really quickly interject with a small thing that doesn't even come from me? It comes from my father, but I totally agree with. Why are they still separating Black Lightning? Why is Black Lightning not allowed into this?
Okay, I've heard mixed things about this.
Literally, from what I've heard, all of DC film history is in on this Crisis event now.
Well, he is. Black Lightning is part of Crisis.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. What I mean, though, he's not getting his own episode to be part of it, so there won't be a Black Lightning episode that ties into it, but Black Lightning himself will be in it. As for why he's not, connected in the Arrowverse currently, there's two reasons I know about it. The production reason kind of makes sense, although it's still weird that they didn't at least still try to canonize it as part of the universe. But production-wise, the reason for no crossovers makes a lot of sense because unlike all the other shows where they're filmed in Vancouver, Black Lightning is actually filmed in Atlanta. So production-wise, I can see why it's hard to cross them over. I mean,
so I get that. Production-wise, they could have made a clip to just insert in about
that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
It.
They could have easily fixed it with that, but then it kind of goes to the other issue, which I guess kind of came with the writer of the show, who really didn't want, from what I understand, and from the sound of it, every time I've heard interviews with him, it's like he really doesn't want him to connect with the other shows for some reason. But
why, though?
I don't know. But you got Greg Berlanti, who's like the opposite mindset. He's like the producer on everything, and he from what I understand, Greg Berlanti really wanted Titans and Doom Patrol to be like part of the universe, even if they weren't going to directly reference each other.
I'm honestly cool with that.
But I think it was his ideas conflicted with everyone else's, so because he's not the only producer on these shows, but he's one of the main guys. So I think he was the reason that Black Lightning is finally going to be in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and I think he's the reason why they filmed. Okay, and I'm saying they filmed it. I'm not saying it's actually going to happen in the show, but they did film a Titans cameo, on the set of
Lightning.
No, in for Crisis. For Crisis.
Okay.
They filmed a Titans cameo. Whether or not it actually plays out in the episode, we'll have to see. But they did film a cameo for the Titans. But yeah, let me get the more not as bizarre as I thought it was news first, because this one isn't as bizarre as I thought it was after reading the real synopsis. Basically, I had been stupid, and before making this video, I think I watched a video from Pagey or someone else. It could have been Erickson Reloaded, I don't remember, but one of them was talking about a show, and I kind of am a little bummed that this isn't as weird as I thought, but they described it as, how there's all the DC superhero girl shows out there that are kind of appealing to the much younger female audience.
Right.
So he was talking about how there was supposed to be a new live action kind of version of that, where it'd be all these female superhero characters in high school, as BFFs. So and it would have been characters that aren't even related. That's how he described it.
Would have been the was it the Enchanted series? Wait, what is was that Disney live action show about the girls who are all related to other people?
Descendants. It would have been Descendants.
Yeah,
that's what he described it as. Turns out it's nothing like that. It's actually just supposed to be a high school drama that's in the DC universe, and you'll probably see mentors that are famous characters.
Legit? So I might be really into that. Yeah, with a specific character mixture.
Huh?
If they have if they make it with how Young Justice season 2 ended with people going to high school and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
If they had those people interacting with other people who happen to be teenagers around them, that would be pretty cool.
Yeah. So it'll be
there's always a Robin in high school.
Yeah.
Always.
When one graduates, you got another.
Exactly.
I mean, I think Tim Drake and Jason Todd are around the same age, so technically Jason Todd could probably be a senior while Tim Drake's a freshman. And then then as soon as
and Barbara's going to be in there with one of them.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So it's interesting. I don't know enough about it to make any more comments other than okay, cool. Now, the next one is the one I'm the most excited about, and that is a Superman TV show. And number one reason I'm excited for this is because the movies aren't doing jack shit with him. Okay.
Are there even movies of him?
No,
we haven't had Man of Steel.
Yeah, we had Man of Steel, and then Dawn of Justice, and he made a cameo in Justice League, a glorified cameo.
Okay, admittedly, I would say Justice League was more than a cameo.
Fine, but he had a small part.
You know what he did have a cameo, a non-face cameo in? Shazam. Yeah, Shazam. He kind of showed up without his face or anything.
And one thing that I thought of too is that it's almost like, because DC movies seem to want to go more towards, and I'm not saying this is bad, this makes sense actually, like the producer, she's been saying that she wants to go for a more female-centric DC universe now, with some of the more female superheroes. Wonder Woman.
Female superheroes are the only thing good right now.
Yeah. So
DC, other than Shazam,
what I've heard from rumors is that Supergirl's probably going to be ending soon, and if that's the case, it might be like they're switching. So as Supergirl ends, ends, they bring her to the movies, and then they get Superman into. I actually really like. Now that I've actually binged all of Supergirl, I actually really like it.
I don't think it's good.
I think
those are two different statements. I really do enjoy the Supergirl show. I don't think it's good. I think I enjoy it despite how flawed it is, because it is genuinely enjoyable. As enjoyable to watch cast doing enjoyable to watch things. It's delightfully camp and super aware of it. I kind of like its whole social binge. I'm very into really leftist media already, and it definitely leans that way very intentionally.
Yes, it does.
And I kind of love that it exists for a lot of other reasons that are meta-narrative reasons. Like, I just love the fact that it's allowed to exist.
Like, I do really like it, and now that I finally finished binging season 4.
Despite all that.
But, I don't know, I think it's okay.
It is okay.
I'd have to...
It's not straight up bad, although it has... entire arcs that are straight up.
I would say Supergirl definitely has a lot of really bad episodes.
Yeah, it does.
Definitely.
But overall, I think it's all right.
Yeah.
It's a good thing that it exists. I'm still down with a much more grounded and better script for a theatrical version.
I would want a more comic book accurate movie where she's actually in high school and not a reporter like Clark Kent.
Right.
So it seems like they're now kind of switching place. So Superman is moving to the TV side, only doing cameos in different movies, where Supergirl's now probably going to be like one of the new faces of DC. So what's cool about
really cool.
Three points that I wanted to bring up that's really cool about the Superman show. Number one is you can kind of consider this to be a spiritual successor to both Smallville and Lois and Clark. And the reason being is that Smallville ends with him about to become Superman. We don't really see him in the full suit, except for it's kind of crappily CG'd on. Yeah. Lois and Clark ended on the note where Lois gets pregnant, and then the show got canceled before they could continue what happens after that. Now, in this Superman show, Lois is already
is canonically how the Injustice series gets started.
We know that
Lois
in this
gets pregnant.
that
does that thing.
That's true. But no, I'm assuming they're going with the Rebirth storyline so that they have a kid and they call him Jonathan Kent. So now we have a show where Superman is an actual dad, and I don't know if the kid's going to be like a toddler or if he's going to be a baby, but they are going to be raising a kid.
I actually would like to see a multiple years later thing where Superman's kid isn't comic accurate. I want him to be human. I want him to be human for a couple reasons. One, because in a sci-fi sense, it makes more sense that the creature that gave birth is a species that births the species, so the baby should be the same species as the mother, most likely. Unless you're gonna say that he doesn't have sperm, he injected a baby into her womb, which then gets weird. But even from a non-sci-fi point of view, I would really love to see a narrative about Superman having a son that can't ever possibly match up to Superman. And I don't mean like he has like a superhero crisis where like he doesn't feel like his dick is big enough or his power is big enough compared to his daddy, which is what we usually see with like Superboy narratives and stuff. I would like to see what it's like for Superman to raise a human child.
Okay.
For him to impart all he learned and have that tested against human value, truly human values that can't be discounted in any way.
Kind of like that underrated Disney Channel original movie, and I think it's called Up, Up and Away.
I don't know. I honestly haven't seen this.
I actually really enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, I want him to be super powered, Superboy, because I love Jonathan Kent. Honestly,
yeah.
He's an awesome character. Like, actually, he's funny. Like,
he is a really
two of
cool
my.
character in the comics,
I love both Jonathan Kent and Connor Kent. I love both the Superboys, and so that's why I'm personally hoping for Jonathan Kent, like comic book accurate,
which would be cool.
Yeah,
which would be cool.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. So yeah, that's one cool thing about it. The other cool thing, shoot, I had my
please say they're gonna give him red underwear. I swear to God, if I see another fully blue suit without boots or underwear, I'm gonna cry.
I mean, maybe he'll be inspired by Brandon Ralph after Crisis to like wear the trousers, because he currently his costume doesn't have that, but it could change.
Not just the trousers, the underwear, whatever. I want something there, some red in the design to break up the blue. And I don't get why all these blue suits don't have the red boots. Why don't they at least have the red boots?
They have the red boots.
A lot of them don't. I'm currently selling a recent cover of Superman, and the collector's edition toy it comes with bothers me every time I see it because it doesn't have boots and it doesn't have pants.
Okay, this Superman has boots. I can say that. But actually, I'm wrong. I only had two facts. There's one of them I already said, which is that we finally get more Superman content, which is something I just want more Superman. We have been having such a lack of it recently.
Dude, I had a conversation with a coworker that made me realize how disappointing Superman media is right now. She doesn't like Superman for the same reason I used to really not like Captain America, and why I still don't really love him in the comics despite him getting a lot of extra stuff in the comics. I didn't like Captain America because I thought he was one note too good, not complex enough. The movies, I think, do a great job with Captain America. The movies make me actually like Captain America more than most of the other superheroes somehow. They was one of my least favorite comic book characters and made him one of my favorite movie characters. My coworker feels the same way about Superman. She doesn't care about Superman. There's nothing interesting about Superman. He's a Boy Scout, and not in an interesting way. He's goody two-shoes, super powerful, untouchable, and it's boring. And I found it really hard to argue with her since she doesn't watch either the animated series or read the comics.
God, if you want like the best adaptation of Superman, the animated series,
and then universe Superman,
the so Justice League show that continued his story, amazing.
Even the rest of the DC like animated universe like spin-offs and stuff are all great too. Although I do find a couple of them lacking, particularly All-Star Superman. I like the comic book.
One. The All-Star Superman is. It's weird. Some of the animated movies are connected. That one isn't. That one's in its own separate thing. But most
I like
of
the
them
comic book version of that story arc of that idea way more than I like that adaptation.
But going back, actually, I can go on to number 3 by talking about what you just brought up with the All-Star Superman.
There we go.
That this Superman is actually going to be, because a lot of times when we get a Superman movie, a Superman adaptation, it feels like it kind of ends before we really got him developed.
Yeah.
This is the most developed Superman we now have on screen, with the exception of Brandon Ralph when he reprises his role. But this will be like the most experienced like version that we get like a consistent arc for, because now he's one where Lois Lane not only knows his identity as Clark Kent, but she's married to him straight up, and they have a kid together. So this is a Superman that's almost caught up with the comic book currently of DC Rebirth. So this is a fully developed Superman now, and his whole thing is going to be a lot less, more than likely, a lot less about being a superhero and more about being a family man. You know, I'm assuming they're going to live on the Kent farm. Lois Lane is probably still going to be working at the Daily Bugle. I don't know. If I had to assume, if I were writing the show, I'd love to keep Superman as a stay-at-home dad. You know, that would be really cool.
I think that would not only be really cool, but be really topical for our current day. Dude, if they made Lois the working for the money, the like workaholic mom, and then made Clark the stay-at-home dad, and made like the fun balance in his world being a dad and Superman, and finally not having to worry about the old Clark Kent stuff that we've all seen a billion times, that we'd meme and make fun of now. That would be so cool. I'd be so into that.
Has to teach his kid not to use his powers. Like, for one thing, like, you know, maybe there'd be like a scene where like they're chopping wood to get for the fire, and you know the kid just wants to punch the tree, you know, into pieces, but Clark has to teach him not to do that. Or they're getting the fire started, the kid wants to use his heat vision. Clark is like, no, this is how you start a fire. Teaching him just, you know, regular human tasks and trying to teach his kid not to do. God, that could be so good. I'm excited to see where they go with this. And I think I really like I forgot the actress's name for Lois Lane, but I really like her, and I really like Tyler Hoechlin, and I'm excited to finally see him fully like get his own show and see where he gets to go now that he has an entire show to develop his acting and to develop his character. Moving on to the next show. This is going back to HBO Max now, stepping away from CW, going to HBO Max. We got
still staying in the Warner Brothers family.
Yeah, still staying in Warner Brothers, because we now have Strange Adventures, which I thought was going to be a show about Adam Strange. Apparently it's not. It's instead, excuse me, it's supposed to be an anthology show set in the DC universe.
About what, though?
Not sure specifically what it's connected to. Like, I know it's an anthology, so it might follow one superhero after another. It might just follow the daily lives of an average person living in the DC universe. Kind of similar to that one show about an insurance agency that lived in the DC universe. I can't remember the name of that show, but I remember Powerless. That was the name, I think.
Yeah.
I just remember people hated it. And funny enough, I'm going to go off topic slightly for 2 seconds. Like, Marvel was developing a damage control TV show, and I
still think would have been so cool to see.
I guess DC, like, without announcing it, just released Powerless a little bit after Marvel had first announced it, and immediately after the ratings and reviews were so low for the show is when like Marvel scratched the idea for it,
which is such a shame, because that could have been so fun.
Because like they had like the same concept. But yeah. Okay, last thing is a Green Lantern TV show.
I saw the news for this. Yeah.
This one, from what I hear, is likely
really interesting.
It's likely to be connected to the DCEU, whatever's left of the DCU, from what I understand. And this is a quote from Greg Berlanti. This will actually be the most expensive DC TV show.
Which I can definitely imagine. Because it was one of the most expensive DC movies when it came out. Although, admittedly, that's because they did a lot of things they really shouldn't have done.
They could have done it in a much cheaper way.
They could have done any practical effects and cut their cost a lot. They chose not to. And admittedly, I don't think that was a bad decision. It's just a bad decision for saving money. I do realistically think if you're going to do that with anyone, Green Lantern is the absolute one to do it with.
Yeah.
Everything about Green Lantern is literally made self-made constructs, instantaneous and by thought. If you're going to do a whole bunch of CG everywhere, that's going to be the one to do it. So this confuses me that they're making a TV show out of it. I don't know if there's a budget on Earth that could allow for that.
It's going to be 6 episodes, from what I understand. 6 episodes. The show will have $130 million budget.
Just off they're gonna what? Like compete with like Big Bang Theory and Game of Thrones in terms of cost without knowing what the hell they're gonna make on it? Like that seems ridiculous to me.
It could, so the way they could do it a couple of ways. So one of the major things I'm kind of hoping, because I think it'll look better and it'd be cheaper. I think it'd be cheaper. I could be wrong. I hope the whole suit isn't CG. I hope it's
There's no way it can be.
I hope it's a Green Lantern suit that's made with costumes, like actual, like, you know, an actual costume with CG enhancements. Like, I do think that a Green Lantern suit needs CG enhancements in order to work.
It does, especially because like half the shit is like it has a passive barrier and stuff that you can see in the comics. He glows and crap. Yeah, it's like,
but I don't think it needs to be entirely CG like with Ryan Reynolds' suit.
Right.
The other thing that they could do to save money is if they use only like the pilot and then finale for in space travel, and then the rest of it could take place on Earth. We don't know which Green Lantern this is. Literally nothing plot synopsis wise has been released about this.
I probably think it's gonna be Guy Gardner.
I don't. I think it's going to be either... Oh, God, I forgot both of their names. They're not even technically the newest Green Lanterns anymore, because now you got Teen Lantern, which is a silly name, but I love it. But there was like the two in the Green Lantern, when DC Rebirth first started, you had the Green Lantern comic books that had two of them, and they were like kind of a buddy cop. One of them, I can't remember her name, but she was in Justice League versus the Fatal Five.
That'd be cool.
She has like an anxiety problem. So that would be kind of a cool thing if it was one of those two. That's probably would be the safest bet for them, and that way if they wanted to go back and do the Green Lantern Corps movie that they've been talking about for so long, that's where they could use the more well-known Green Lanterns like Hal Jordan or John Stewart, Guy Gardner, and what's the one that everyone hates?
Hal Jordan?
No.
The classic? I don't know.
No, not the classic one. No,
Guy Gardner's the one everyone hates, dude.
Was it Guy Gardner? No, there was one before John Stewart, but after Hal Jordan. Or maybe it was after John Stewart, but it wasn't Guy Gardner. Wait, maybe it was. Okay.
It was definitely Guy Gardner. Dude.
Okay, maybe
Guy
it was...
Gardner is the douchebag everyone hates.
Okay, Guy Gardner.
The one that incidentally also happens to be gay, and the ginger.
Okay, the ginger is the one that everyone hates. Is that Guy Gardner?
That's Guy Gardner.
Okay, Guy Gardner's the ginger.
Yeah.
Okay,
By the way, don't hate him because he's gay. That's honestly one of the only reasons to like him. No. It's because he's a dick. But the reason I think he's probably who I would choose for it is because, one, him being gay is socially relevant. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. And social relevancy is going to let you cut costs a lot. You know why I say this? Because it means that you don't have to have episodes about CG fights. You have episodes about social issues.
I think that's why I think going with the girl would work, because if she has anxiety issues, like one of her things is that she's afraid to even leave her house at one point. And what could save money better than never even leaving the house?
That's true. But other things, I think they're going to find some way to tie it into the military, because I could see the way they're able to afford a massive budget like that, first go, is military funding. Mm-hmm. If you can snag military funding by promoting the Air Force or somehow, or the Army, and I think different versions of Guy Gardner have been in the military before. So I think that would work. I'm pretty sure they could make a lot of money instantly like that. It's also one of the reasons I would think maybe Hal Jordan would be the one they're doing. Besides that, and he's the biggest Green Lantern.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I should probably point out, I don't know my Green Lantern mythos as much as I should. I read Green Lantern when he's in Justice League, that's it. I've read Justice League comic books with Green Lantern in it, but I've never read like Green Lantern comic books individually.
I'm a really hardcore passive fan.
So, my question is, hasn't every Green Lantern been in the military though?
I mean, technically, yes, because the...
before being recruited.
I think so?
Because I think it's like their military background that made them worthy.
Sometimes? I mean, it's not...
It's one of the things. One of the things.
So I think it's less that it's one of the things that makes him worthy, and it's more that like people in the military are usually people that the DC universe sees as being highly willful people anyways, even though it's technically not true.
Mostly because like a lot of writers for DC were in the military. I know.
Right, yeah. But so there's like a big thing of focus where like if you're an individual in the military, that's a big thing. And part of that is that like, so it's not necessarily the military background, it's like the almost rebellious but military background that each of them has, or the leadership role in the military background that made them worthy. Mm-hmm. Because normal soldiers, rank and file, would never be worthy. Their willpower is too low. You literally get your willpower trained out of you in the military. This is like not a controversial thing. If you're a rank and file soldier or worker in any of the U.S. Armed Forces, you are literally boot camped and trained to be submissive to authority. That's just part of it, which is part of the reason why Hal Jordan specifically was a kind of roguish pilot. He did experimental piloting. He was a captain. He was a military leader. He wasn't rank and file. He was had a very individualistic role in being a pilot. It's a very solo based role. It's not dependent on leadership, on following someone else's leadership, but rather it's more dependent on being able to creatively adapt while following broad orders. It was a role that was portrayed as allowing for individual willpower, which is why he was a pilot. I don't know the same about the rest of them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Guy Gardner was in the military. That's all I know.
Yeah.
That's all I remember of that. I was never a Guy Gardner fan. I'll be honest. I never got into that.
It's gonna bother me so much that I don't know the name of the one I'm thinking of, the one that was also in the Justice League animated series. But I'm gonna look it up and then be like, well,
Stewart?
No.
Okay.
John Stewart was in Justice League, but I meant like he was a minor character in Justice League. Yeah. He only appeared a couple of times because he was in like Justice League Unlimited for one episode. Then he was also he was actually the first Green Lantern that we saw in the DC AU, because he first appeared in Superman the animated series before we ever were introduced to John Stewart.
Yeah, I feel bad for not remembering him.
But yeah, he was. I'm not even gonna pretend
I even remember his name.
Yeah,
or his background.
Yeah, like I said,
anything about him.
I don't even know the background of the John Stewart Green Lantern. I know that he was in the military. Definitely, that's it.
Yep.
Right. The only Green Lantern I know the backstory for is Hal Jordan. Yeah, right? That's because it's so iconic. Yeah, I'm sorry for people who are Green Lantern fans. I don't know my Green Lantern mythos, but
I'll be
I
honest,
can say this
as a passive but very dedicatedly passive. I feel strongly about Green Lantern, although I'm not a huge reader. I also don't know much about Green Lantern's past.
But I can say this, though, that I am really looking forward to seeing where they go with the TV show. And Greg Berlanti seems to be really excited for it, obviously.
Yeah.
He's going to be excited for anything he produces. But yeah,
True.
But I do, if it does take place in DCEU, it would be interesting to see like two different versions of Green Lantern being able to go on at the same time. So we got one TV version, and then we also have like a movie version as well. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
And Green Lantern is one of those things where you can have both of them be in the same universe too.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even have to worry about like contradicting each other's plots. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be cool. Overall, though, so actually one last question before we wrap up. Which of the shows that I brought up, so between the high school one, the Superman, Strange Adventures, or Green Lantern, which of those four are you most looking forward to?
Realistically, the Superman one, definitely, by a pretty long stretch. Idealistically, or like just for like what I think would be most interesting, if done well in a very alternative, non-traditional way, the high school one actually interests me a lot.
Okay.
Superman, though, I think has the best chance of working out, as well as the best chance of being interesting and good, as opposed to just being interesting or different. I think it's probably gonna attract the highest quality talent, as well as the most resources for that talent. And beyond that, it also has the subject matter that interests me most there, probably.
Yeah.
But that high school one has me really interested, if done different enough or good enough, or both.
All right. Yeah, I think that about wraps this up. Thank you guys for watching. You have an awesome day.
You have an awesome rest of your life.
Hopefully this will be
I
up.
won't ever see you again.
This will hopefully be up on Sunday, and hopefully for throughout the rest of the week. I only uploaded one that I can remember, but I'm going to try to upload the rest of the older podcasts that we did that were SoundCloud exclusives. I'm going to try to upload the rest of those on YouTube. So, like, if you ever want to binge like all of our podcasts in a row, you can just do it on one website, especially because they're not going to be available on SoundCloud pretty soon. So
interesting.
Yeah.
In my universe, you know where we alternatively upload our stuff?
SoundCloud?
No. Actually, admittedly, we didn't make any money off it, which is why we started switching to YouTube. But we published on this thing. It probably exists in some form of your universe on Pornhub. And we actually got sponsored for a little bit. It wasn't much, but we got sponsored for a little bit. It was nice.
I don't remember if I published any. I know I created a Pornhub account for Nerds of the Multiverse. I don't know if I've actually published any videos on it yet. I should get on that, though. I probably will, and I'm not going to lie. I'm actually probably going to do that sometime soon.
In my universe, we won a best erotic scene category award.
I would love. You know, it'd be funny if Pornhub had an award like every year. If one of their categories were SFW,
the best safe for work.
Yeah. The best safe for work award goes to Nerds of the Multiverse.
That'd be cool.
All right,
be the best Razzie to have.
I know. You guys have an awesome night.
All right, bye bye.